Okay, so these are those two homework problems from page 106 that were a little tricky. So we're going to take a look at how we do them. So the first one, I've got 1 plus the quantity 7x minus 8. Remember, those are like in parentheses here. And that's over 6. So I need to find a way to make this 1 into a fraction because I've got a fraction here. And so we do that by just writing it as 1 over 1. So now I can just go ahead and figure out, well, hey, to get a common denominator, I need to have the least common denominator here, so I need between 1 and 6, I need that denominator to be 6. So both of them need to have a common denominator of 6. Well, this one already has a common denominator of 6, so it means I can just bring down what I've already got, 7x minus 8 as my numerator, and there's a plus sign there. And here, I must have multiplied this one by 6 to get 6, which means I've got to do the same thing to the top. So that gives me 6 over 6. So now I've got one denominator, so I write my fraction, I combine my entire fraction over the one denominator, which is 6, and I get 6 plus 7x minus 8. And so this has one variable, these guys have no variables, so that gives me 7x, which can't be combined with anything, and 6 minus 8, which is negative 2, and that's all over 6. And so that is my answer for 3C from page 106. So taking a look at 5E, which is a little trickier, we notice a couple of things here. So we notice, first of all, that there's this factor in front of the binomial that needs to be distributed. And there's another factor here, this 3. And then there's also this negative sign, this minus sign, this negative sign that is going to go along with whatever we're doing in the numerator. But in order to even get started, I still need that least common denominator. And so I need to get a least common denominator between 6 and 4. And be careful here, because 6 times 4 would give me 24, but there's a smaller common denominator because they both share a factor of 2. So that common denominator for these guys is 12. So if I make this fraction with a denominator of 12, and I want to make this one with a denominator of 12 as well. And I put the minus sign in between because that's what they're doing to each other. And then I actually want to bring this minus sign down here for the first one. So I'm going to ask myself, okay, what did I multiply the 6 by to get 12? And I multiplied that by 2, so I must have done the same thing to the numerator. So I've got negative 2 times 5, and 2 times 5 is going to give me 10. I can even just write it out as the factors right here. So I've got a 2 times 5 times parentheses x minus 1. So we'll do that in the next step. And here, the 4, I must have multiplied something by the 4 to get to 12, and so 4 times 3 is 12, so I must have multiplied by 3 in the numerator here. So I've got that minus sign, and so now I've got in the numerator 3 times 3 times 2x plus 1. Okay. So if I take a look at what I've got now, I've got a negative 2 times 5 times x minus 1, minus, or negative, 3 times 3 times 2x plus 1. Well, when I multiply, remember, you just multiply from left to right. So let's just multiply the first two terms here. So 2 times 5, that is going to be negative 10. And I forgot to mention that both of these have a common denominator of 12. So I'm going to write this whole numerator just as one fraction all over 12. Okay, so 2 times 5 is negative 10, and then I'm going to multiply that by x minus 1. If you're confused about where that negative sign is coming from, it's because there's that minus or that negative right out front. Right? So that belongs, we're going to put that with the numerator. Here we've got minus or negative 3 times 3, and 3 times 3 is 9. So we just write minus 9 times parentheses 2x plus 1. And so now we can distribute these two different problems to get our numerator. So here we've got negative 10, and we're going to multiply that by both parts. So that's negative 10x. Negative 10 times negative 1 is positive 10. And here we've got a negative 9. Keep track of the sign there. So negative 9 times 2x and negative 9 times 1, which is negative 18x and minus 9, or negative 9. And that's all over 12 still. So here, this has one variable. This has one variable. These have no variables. So negative 10x minus 18x is negative 28x. And positive 10 minus 9 is plus 1. And that is all over 12. And so that is your final answer.